1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions.
Oh, the crack of the bat. I want to take a bat to somebody.
We'll talk about that here in a bit.
Detroit City. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore.
We don't have to take it anymore because we got our own show.
That's a preview for what's on the way today. Detroit City of Champions. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us on this journey, celebrating 1935.
Not 1932?
No, not 1932.
Well, we celebrate 1932 a little bit, but not in the context of what we're going to talk about tonight.
So, but thanks for joining us on this journey into 1935 and the trilogy of championships, and then plus another 30.
Trilogy times 10.
Yes.
33.
Yep. And so like, subscribe, leave a comment, and just tell a friend. That helps too. Share the news, share the love. And then so thanks for listening. Charles, looking good.
Thanks, man. Good to see you. It's been a long time, Jay. We got through, every year there's a Christmas season for me at the stores.
Crazy time.
It's crazy. We were lucky to get a couple shows just to kind of wrap up what we were doing this last season. What is this, season 4 we're in now or something like that? But yeah, it's, it was, I was happy that we were able to get in the last couple players. We got in Newell Banks at the very end, and it's sort of a new year now, 2024. And we're, kicking off with, this is kind of a wild card. But we do have some focus for the tonight's show.
Yeah. A little kind of alluding to 1932 and being angry.
So, but before we do that, I want to premise everything we say with this. Okay?
Yeah.
This Lions season has been absolutely amazing.
This is the 2024.
I've been following I want to preface my own little history of following the Lions over the last course of the last decade, I guess you could say. My first season of watching the Lions was 1991.
Mm-hmm.
I was I think I was in middle school. I just started playing football. I was kind of playing for my middle school football team. And my first season I ever watched was 1991.
Right.
And this season was amazing. It had this is the season that the Lions went all the way to they went all the way and won their first round playoff game against the Cowboys.
Right.
And so it was amazing. And that was the year I watched Michigan go to the Rose Bowl and get beat by Washington.
Yeah.
And which is kind of crazy that Michigan just won the national championship against Washington this year.
Yeah.
So, but I've been a diehard Lions fan. I'm a diehard Detroit sports fan my whole life, especially since 1991. And I like every year it's been my it's almost like a joke, like my own personal joke. When people ask me what I think the Lions are going to do, is I always say, "Oh, they're going to the Super Bowl this year." Right? It's been so every year, and I've always said, well, I want to say that so that the one year that I get it right. I've seemed like I'm a prophet. That's
right.
Somebody, even though I say it every year.
You got to get that Super Bowl tattoo.
Yeah,
the guy
and
with
change it every year to cross the line, or just add the year when they do it. Or whatever. No. So anyways, but I will. But this is what I'm trying to get to is that over the last prior to a couple 3 years ago, I was so disinterested in the Lions. I mean, it wasn't just because they were losing, because I'd followed the team for years, even when they were losing.
Right.
It was the previous coaching regime that I just couldn't stand. They were like these Patriot guys. They kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I just didn't like them. And I was just really annoyed with them. I watched the draft a little bit, but the season I hardly watched it all. And then when Dan Campbell came in, he gave this speech, he gave his introductory speech. And I could basically care less. I'm like, it's going to be the same old thing.
Yeah.
And he came out with this fire and brimstone speech, which everybody knows well.
Yeah.
And it was like, we're going to bite kneecaps off and all this. And it went viral. And I saw that. I'm like, this guy's awesome. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that for me, I was like kind of hooked at that moment. And then the next day when Dan Campbell, when they were interviewing him, I think he was on Jimmy Kimmel or something, but he was doing some interview.
Yeah.
And it was Jimmy Kimmel. They were mocking him in the national media, but he was talking to somebody. And I was like, the very next day, I was watching him. I was actually watching an interview with him. And they asked him, they said, what do you think about the national media like roasting you and you going viral for your thing yesterday? And he said, I wasn't talking to them. I was talking to the Lions fans. And here I was engaged with what Dan Campbell was saying at that very minute. I'm like, holy crap, he's right. That's how he caught my attention, you know? And literally since that moment, I mean, I've just been consuming Lions content. A lot of people may just be watching the Lions now, but a couple of years ago when Campbell first was coaching, they like just getting his first win in his first season was like one of the most craziest journeys.
Yeah.
There was one game where the guy made an all-time record field goal in NFL history to beat the Lions and stop Campbell from getting his first victory. Like but once he got it, it was like the biggest thing. It was like they won the Super Bowl. The Lions players were going nuts, you know? And so I've been hooked in this team a lot like I was hooked on the Detroit Pistons when they like the lead up to the 2004. Like I didn't become a Pistons fan in 2004. I was following the Pistons when they had Grant Hill, when they had Jerry Stackhouse, when they traded those guys, when they got Ben Wallace. You know, I was following those. I saw the kind of rise of the Pistons. You could kind of feel it. They had that same vibe, and the Lions have that same vibe, which is this team that is. I started watching them. I was engaged when they were terrible because you could see that they had the makings of something great. Yeah. And they just needed the pieces to come into it. They had the culture. They had a couple of the it factors that you need. You could just see it. And it was just about, from that point, it's about adding the pieces. And I've just been fascinated with this particular Lions team for several years. And of course, the run up this year has been amazing. And the playoffs have been amazing. And so what we're going to be talking about today, I want to make sure that everyone understands that what we're talking about today is not to take away from any of that at all. I mean, I absolutely I love this Lions team. And in fact, what we're talking about today has really nothing to do with them. This is a national media situation. And really, we're the only ones talking about it, which is kind of crazy to me. But nonetheless, we're the only ones talking about the City of Champions season. So why wouldn't we also be the only ones to point out what is just like one of the most egregious things that I've ever seen? I mean, on a national stage, this is one of the most it's just mind-boggling what we are about to talk about tonight.
Yeah, it's I think it might lend itself back to because the first championship game for the NFL was in 32.
Yes, it was.
So,
but they didn't win it.
But but we didn't win it.
Nobody the Bears won it.
Was it the Spartans and the Bears?
Yeah.
And so we actually, because we had talked about that, and we had some images.
Let's build up to it then. Let's just get into it.
That was that crazy game that they ended up playing in
indoor. Yeah, but we'll set it up. We'll
in the hockey arena. So we had some images.
Let's lay a couple of facts down real quick. All right, before we get into what we're going to present. Okay, fact number one. The Detroit Lions came to Detroit. The Detroit Lions came from Portsmouth, Ohio, and they played their first game in Detroit in 1934.
Well, and it's like it's all the jerseys.
They all have the 90th anniversary on them.
90th
anniversary on them.
It's like, all right, it's not 90. It's not the 92nd anniversary.
Yes. So they all. So it says 1934. It is and even on Thanksgiving games. We even take exception to the Thanksgiving games because they never mention 1935 in the Thanksgiving games. It's always 34 because that was the first Thanksgiving, but they can't always take that one little extra leap and go 1934 was the first Lions Thanksgiving game. And by the way, in 1935, the Lions won their first championship the very next year, and so did the Red Wings and Tigers.
No,
they can't take that one little extra step. It's always just 1934 was the first Thanksgiving game. They can't just take one little more step ever. Never. No. And so, that's our own little bone to pick, I guess you could say. It's our own thing. But in this case, it's just, it's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And so the fact number one is the Detroit Lions came to Detroit. They were from Portsmouth, Ohio. They had several seasons in Portsmouth, and they came to Detroit in 1934.
Right.
All right. Fact number two. The Lions in their second year, 1935, if we've not given away spoiler alert, 1935, they won their first championship.
Yes.
Right. And so that's fact number two. Fact number three, if we want to point out to point to something from 1932, the Portsmouth Spartans, which is of course the city that the Lions came from, the Portsmouth Spartans in 1932 had played the Iron Man game, which we did this we had one of the greatest episodes of our lives in Portsmouth, down at Portsmouth,
we did.
a legendary episode where we talked in depth about the Iron Man game. And then the Iron Man game knocked off the Packers from championship consideration in 1932. And it led to the matchup between the Portsmouth Spartans and the Chicago Bears at the Chicago Stadium, the ice arena, where they played for the first NFL championship game. And that was a result of both teams having tied.
Yeah.
And so both teams tied in 1932, the Portsmouth Spartans and Chicago Bears. The only way to settle which team was the actual champion was for them to play a head-to-head game. And the NFL had long wanted to have like a World Series type of a game.
Sure.
Yeah, we got the screen on the other game on the screen.
Yeah.
So the NFL had long wanted to have a World Series style situation, and here was it on a silver platter. So they matched these two teams against each other. The Bears won that first championship game 9-0, and what happened as a result was that it set up the NFL wanted to do this every year, and so they broke their teams the one division into two. They had an Eastern and a Western division, and the two divisions played each other. The winner of each division would play each other for the NFL championship every year thereafter. So in essence, the 1932 game at Chicago Stadium between Portsmouth and Chicago was the first NFL championship game. But there again, here's another fact, is that Portsmouth did not win.
Yeah.
They did not win. They lost 9-0.
So even
so there's no way around it. These are basic facts. These are absolutely basic facts.
I'm curious how this mistake got made. And I'm going to guess somebody just was AI.
I believe you must be right.
They didn't check their facts. And So
to set up are we going to show the video?
Yeah, we can show the video.
Okay, so what we're talking about, for those who may not know what we're talking about, is so during the most recent Lions game where they beat the Buccaneers, there was a moment during the game in which the announcers they had a video graphic up where they said these are the cars from each of the times the Lions most recently won their championships. And of course, it was in the 1950s.
And they're all pre-Super
Bowl championships. They showed the four of them. And they had the three championships from the 50s, but then their first championship was dated 1932.
Yeah.
And that's like that's an egregious type. If it's a typo, it is an absolutely egregious, horrendous typo. They're listing on the screen and showing it with the video.
announcer says
1932.
32.
Yeah. And so it's the crazy thing is, I was telling my brother this thing. I was showing him. I said the hardest thing about this City of Champions season, about this 1935 City of Champions season, that is the mental difficulty of bringing this back.
Yeah,
is the constant here's our one chance, here's our one time to be relevant, here's our 1 second. We're we've waited all year, Jamie. Here, they have to mention it now. They got the graphic up. They're talking about the history of the Lions, their first championships.
1932.
Here we get our moment in the shine. For 1 second, we're going to bring a little bit of attention to 1935.
Nope.
And it's it's we can't even get our the 1935 Lions can't get their 1 second spotlight, And so it's the mental. You just look at it just going. So anyways, you want to show the video? So just to kind of demonstrate what we're talking about.
What a rip. Yeah. So, all right. So, so there's here's the clip.
This is America's Motor City, and they like their classics, their old relics. Well, championships are the old relics around here. These cars actually go with the years. When the Lions won the NFL championship before the Super Bowl era, they were tied for the third most NFL championships. Then the shiny new toy came in, the Super Bowl, and the Lions haven't taken it for a ride. No championships, one conference championship appearance, the fewest.
So there you go. So they showed them. And
see, here's the thing.
And it's
during the game, I was watching the game, and I had my head turned slightly to the left.
Yeah.
And I saw that graphic, and I thought out of the corner of my eye, and I said, "Did they just point out 1932 was the first year?" But I sort of missed it, and I kind of I didn't. It was a glance going back, And then it was after, and I was like, they didn't just say 1932, did they?
They did.
And I go, and then it was after the game, which Chris Borma, messaged me with the still of the screenshot, and I was just like, oh my God, my eyes did not lie.
I know.
And of course, when I showed it to you, and then I sent, did you see it during the game?
I was in passing, and I'm like, well,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It flashed so fast, and then Chris it was actually able to grab that video, which is, man, Chris is amazing, man. We love Chris.
Yeah, thanks for digging that.
Yeah,
digging that up.
Man.
I was searching for it.
Yeah. So what it reminds me of is back in the 90s, or not back in the 90s, but in the early, when I first started doing the City of Champions thing, the Tigers had this commercial, and they had various sort of versions of it. And the commercial was always a tiger. That was the theme. It was always a tiger. And so what it would do is, it was on the radio, it was on TV, they would use it for commercials. And what they would do is they would have a voice come on, and they would say, always a tiger.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, Ty Cobb. Then be like, always a tiger, Charlie Gehringer. They would mention these legends' names. And then there was another version where they would go, always a tiger. 1945. 1968, and they would in 1984 they would mention these championships, and of course, and 35 would be left out. I'm sitting at the time I was working on the book, and I'm going, they don't, I'm sitting here trying to make in the book. I'm like, you have to. It's a tough thing to prove when you say that the 1935 season has been completely forgotten.
Yeah.
When you're making that statement, you're opening yourself up to somebody going, I remember it. It's like, and that's what I'm saying. You're opening yourself up for that. So when you're saying this is a forgotten season, in the books, I actually had to systematically prove that this story was forgotten.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so the example that with the always a tiger thing is, that's just one of the, that's just like a sort of, ad hoc example. It's like something that's not like a a definitive thing where you can put some kind of statistics on it, but it's just like, it's just an example, just like this is.
Well, it's even worse with the Tigers, because that was the World Series. They won the World Series. The Lions championship. Okay, they were pre-Super Bowl and they're pre-World War II, so none of that counts.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's how they kind of come. They're like,
poo-poo.
That's what I'm saying. So it's just,
but the World Series, that's the same World Series.
Yeah, it is. No, you're right. That's a great point.
So
it's the same championship.
Forgetting the Lions, it's like, okay, I can see how that gets a little buried.
Yeah. But when you're seeing it consistently happening over different sports, over different aspects, you have a situation where the Detroit Red Wings have a retired player's number from every single championship team, with the exception of what?
35.
There you go, Jay. You exactly nailed it. The Red Wings so the Red Wings are in the same boat. They like in the thing about the retirement of players' numbers, you can sit and go, well, maybe they didn't have a player that was worthy enough retiring. That's not true. Larry Ory's number 6 was retired by the Red Wings. It was literally retired, but when they moved out of Olympia Stadium, they never hung the banner up. There was actually a campaign mounted by Larry Ory's family to get the banner put up, because at Olympia it wasn't a banner; it was his jersey framed, and they never let anybody wear it again, which is the definition of retiring a number. So his number was retired. The only person to ever wear it was like a cousin, it's like his nephew or cousin of Larry Ory. That was the only person that's ever worn his number again.
Okay.
So the number has stayed retired, but the number's just never been hung up in the rafters.
Really?
And then you could also make a case for Ebby Goodfellow, of course. My God, Ebby Goodfellow, one of the greatest hockey players in history. Yeah. Certainly, literally the Gordie Howe of the Red Wings of 1935, one of the greatest players in Red Wings history. And the guy, an icon for the early Red Wings history. And his number, you could easily, I made the case for why Ebby Goodfellow's number should be retired. And that's not hung up there either. So what I'm saying is that this is rampant. This is across all sports. Mickey Cochran, his number, it's on it's like an honored, like the honored numbers or something like that. But why isn't his number retired? Mickey Cochran, by all accounts, was the single-handed really responsible for bringing the Tigers their first World Series championship
and saving the team,
saving the organization, literally saving the organization.
It was almost lights out.
It was that you could make a case that without Cochran coming to that team, and that team, if it would have continued down the path it was on, it may not have survived. Absolutely. And every single person for every single Tiger player of that time, every single one of them gave credit to Mickey Cochran for making that team what it was. And every single media company did. Every single, you can look in the books that I have. Every single newspaper article is like, there's a giant picture of Mickey Cochran and they're saying, he said they'd win, and they did, and like every single article, every single writer is always Mickey Cochran as the central figure. And so, and Mickey, and the crazy thing is about the Mickey Cochran retirement is that you say, well, he only played I think it was 5 years with the Tigers. So it's long, he didn't play long enough. Well, you could say, they could say, he didn't play his entire career with the Tigers. Yeah. Right. So why would the Tigers retire his number when he didn't play his full career? But here's the thing with Mickey Cochran when he went into the Hall of Fame,
you get to pick what team you
get to pick what team you represent. And he went in as a Tiger.
Yeah.
So if he went in as a Tiger into the Hall of Fame, is one of the greatest. He played longer with Philadelphia. He won more World Series championships with Philadelphia. He won more MVPs with Philadelphia. Mickey Cochran was a star before he even came to the Tigers with Philadelphia, and yet he went in as a Tiger. So how is that? So how is it that we can ignore that? Mickey Cochran himself can ignore that longevity for how he's choosing to be represented Hall of Fame, but yet that is used as a reason for why he's denied the ultimate honor for the Tigers themselves. So that's just we could go on and on, and we have gone on and on.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that these are all examples of the straight up the simple idea that 1935 has been completely forgotten. Yeah. And there are pockets, there are people that we have, that hear us, that have read the books, that are, that I've talked to and all this, but by and large, this story is largely forgotten. It is certainly forgotten. There is no, when you lay out the history of Detroit sports from any sort of mainstream news outlet, from the teams themselves, the 1935 chapter does not exist. Yeah. It doesn't exist. And so, one final fact to lay down, which I think that we've gone, after 107 episodes, that we have, laid down, I think, pretty conclusively. Yeah. The fact is, this is the greatest season in the history of American sport.
Yes.
This is the greatest season. It's been 107 episodes thus far to tell the story, and we're not even done with we haven't even got to the championships yet.
Yeah, we haven't
even gone through what happened in the championships, which is going to be the first thing we roll out for this new season. But it took us 100. What season ever played by any team, by any city ever would require 107 1-hour long episodes in order to explore?
What is it how many months span does this fall in?
Yeah, within a 7-month stretch of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So we have the facts on the table, and we've walked through every one at this point, so we can lay it down as conclusively as we want. This is another fact we can lay down. You have the three major titles of the three major sports titles: Tigers, Lions, Red Wings, within a 7-month stretch of time. Fact. No city has done it since. Nope. Fact. And then on top of that, you have a total of 33 you have 30 other championships on top of the three. Yeah. Fact, because we walked through it. Yeah. And you even gave me you put me through the ringer on a couple of them because we were talking about the police pistol shooters and stuff like this. Yeah. And we nailed it down. We nailed it down conclusively, episode by episode. 33 total legitimate sports championships within this same stretch of time. You have every single sport represented in this. This is the greatest season in the history of America. This isn't just like, they just made a typo and that's all there's to it. Yeah. This, once again, it just demonstrates that the greatest season in the history of America, in the history of American sports has been forgotten and still is largely forgotten by the powers that be. Because if it wasn't, they would have put 30. That would have been like, dude, hold on a second. Change that up real quick. Yeah. Don't remember that.
Nobody noticed.
Yeah.
Nobody noticed.
Nobody noticed.
Nobody noticed. That got all the way
past the censors, the identity
past
typos,
the censors,
the typos. Yeah. So it really is.
The fact checkers.
Yes. So like I say, for the last couple 3 days, and I was like, Jamie, I tell you, like, this is crazy, and you're like, this is something we should do a short time. Like, no, we're doing a full on episode, right? Like this is worthy of a full on episode, right? So And so since that, like literally since that point, I've been sitting here, like I've been thinking. It's like this has probably been the main thing I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just, you go through sort of like a range of like emotions about it, right? You're looking at it and you're just like, you're angry you're like, this is ridiculous, man. And it's like so frustrating. It's so mentally like draining, right? And I'm telling my family about it. I'm telling my friends about it. And they're, I'm getting all amped up, like, this is crazy, this is crazy. Like,
yes, and you, me, and Chris are the only ones really pissed off about it.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And they're like, oh, here goes Charles on another rant, this. Like, and so this is crazy to me, man. And so the range of emotions, you're like shouting at the sky.
Yeah.
You're like, what is going on? It's like maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe we're the crazy ones and everybody else is the same ones, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so, man.
I don't think so.
I don't think that's the case. And so it's like this range. It's like because I'm not a whiner, Jamie.
Yeah.
I'm not a whiner. I'm going to sit there and go, I'm mad about it. I'm so sad. I'm not going to sit there and scream at the sky and just go, why? Why? I can't do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm the type that likes to take. So I guess you could say there's a bunch of stuff I want to say. There's a bunch of stuff, but at this, it's like at the moment, like the way that my mind is like, the way that my mind is, it's like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Like what, like there's like, it kind of takes me back. It takes me back to the beginning of this entire project when there's a Abraham Lincoln had a quote. And it was my first year. It was my first like 3 or 4 months of selling books, and everything completely failed. I couldn't find a reporter to even cover the story.
Yeah.
I had 2,000 copies of my book sitting in my mom's dining room. I had nowhere to sell. I tried to get my old job back up on Mackinac Island, and they didn't even want me back. So it's like, because I was like trying to make a couple bucks because I had nothing.
Yeah.
I had nothing. And so like every single plan that I had gotten into to launch the books the first book when I first put it out, every single plan failed. I was reading all these books, how to sell books and all this, and every single plan failed. And there was the quote that kind of summarizes that moment of time for me was, it was an Abraham Lincoln quote. And he said, I was driven to my knees by the overwhelming conviction that I had nowhere else to go. That was like sort of my mindset at the beginning of this thing, because I was like totally screwed. Okay. I had invested everything I had. I'd borrowed everything I could borrow. I'd sold off everything I'd had, and I was completely screwed. And I was on my knees, right? I mean, it was like praying to God. It was just done, man. It was like total helplessness.
Yeah.
And it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, was to like just stand up. You know what I mean? Like stand up and just keep trying especially at that particular moment. And I guess what I'm saying is like, I look at from that point till now, and it was back in 2009. That was like 14 or 15 years ago. And again, this is everything to do with what we're talking about. I'm not just going off on some random tangent.
All right.
I look at where we are now, right? And I'm not alone anymore, Jamie. We've look at what we're building. We've made phenomenal friends. You and I are like, I didn't know you then. Like we got Chris as our friend. We got people that follow the show. We love Chris.
Yeah.
We've got an entire group of people in Portsmouth who are like our brothers down there.
Oh yeah. Like
we had like this has been since like that time I like was able to stand up at that moment till now. This thing is not nothing. This is the greatest season in the history of American sport. And it's not just the numeric statistical thing. We have also demonstrated a further fact that this is one of the greatest stories ever told.
Oh my God.
If not the greatest sports story ever told. So we are not crazy.
No.
We are not wrong.
Yes.
And the idea is like from in the last 14 years, for how far this project has come from nothing, from nobody, like literally nothing, to the fact that we're standing here now. And I've, like I say, trying to think about what do I say regarding this?
Yeah.
What do I do? Right? Do we write CBS our nasty letter?
I'm gonna write them a nasty
Do we shoot our fingers in the air and shout?
Yeah.
And the only thing that I can think of is it kind of like what it was at that moment of just merely standing up, because I did stand up then, and this thing didn't put me on my knees. Hell no, it didn't. It did not put me on. This didn't put me on my knees. This didn't even faze me. Yeah, did it evoke some primal emotions that resonated from the earliest days? Sure, it did. But you know what? That video that they put up, that doesn't define our work. That doesn't define us. That means that at the end of the day, that means nothing to me.
Yeah.
They mean nothing to me. Now, I'm talking about that broadcast. I'm talking about the fact that they don't know. And I'll say it like this. It's not us who are suffering from putting that wrong date up there and knowing nothing about it. The people who should be sad, the people who should be angry, the people who should have the conflicting emotions are the people who know nothing about this. They are the ones who should be lamenting because they don't have any clue that the greatest sports story that's ever been told, that the greatest season that was ever played by any city ever, they passed up their chance to talk about it. They passed up their chance to bask in the glow of the like I say, the greatest season that ever took place. And so that's their lament. I don't lament it. And in fact, what it's done for me, and I can't speak for you, Jamie, but I'm hoping that you go throw your fist in the air and go, hell yeah, like that's what I've done. But what it did for me is this, Jamie. I am going to double my efforts.
Yeah.
I am going to work harder. I am not, this did not stop or deter me.
No.
This re-energized me, and I'm going to put in work this year, Jamie. And if you're down to work, and Chris, if you're down to help us show other things, and everybody who's watching this thing, I'm down to go harder into this thing and lean harder and heavier into it and really bring this story back, and to show that something like that it doesn't drive me to my knees anymore. I once stood up, and I'll not go back down. And I'm still standing. We're still standing after all these years, and we're going to drive this thing forward. And we're going to tell the greatest story that ever took place. We're going to tell it to the world. And I'm going to use this as a motivating factor.
Yes.
That's it.
All right. I'm in.
Did you give me that? Rah! There we go, Jay. And I hope it's like that show on that, what was that show where he's like, oh, man, as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore. And all these people are yelling out the window. That's what I can picture right now on the airwaves across the country. Our legions of fans are going to the window going, I'm not taking it anymore either. I'm going to double my efforts too. We're going to make it happen. So anyways, yes, that is like I say, I'm going to use this, this, whatever this is, annoyance or whatever it is, this is a show we're doing on this subject. We're pointing it out. And like I say, I'm going to use this as fuel. It's no longer a crippling effect by any means. So that's where I'm at.
Same.
I'm glad you agree.
I am. No, I'm gonna send CBS a nasty note.
No, you're not. We're better than that. We're better than that.
Well, no,
we don't
I want
need
them
to send them anything.
that they don't make the same mistake next week or this Sunday.
Well, I mean,
I don't want to see the same.
You're your own man. You can make your own decision like this. But like I say, my thing is like for me, it's more of an emotion of pity. It's really an emotion of pity, because the fact that you're like, it's like I say, that they have no idea. They have no idea. And like I say, we've walked through the Lions season, and we have walked through, we like the Portsmouth episode, I say, was the greatest episode we ever did. If this is your first time listening to this show, go back and watch our episode we did in Portsmouth. We were there with the talking about the 1932 season, the Portsmouth Spartans, the Iron Man game. It was the greatest. I love that show. Yep. I love that show. And like I say, it's if this is your first time, go back and check that show because I love that show, man. It was a Christmas episode, and that's where we're at. That's where we're at. And like I say, we're not going back to the pity party. We're not going back to this. It's like I say, it's there. It's like I feel bad for them.
Yeah,
I feel bad for them.
It was episode 81.
Excellent.
Is that, and we started this Lions season off because the first game of this year was with Green Bay, right?
Yes.
And so we had our guest Neil Rule came on.
Yes,
and because we were talking about the just the hype and the rivalry and how far back the rivalry went, and just where the team was going this year. And we were all optimistic,
big time. And I'm still am. I'm like I say, this has nothing to do with the Lions. I mean, this has nothing. This was their national, that's national broadcasting crew. It was this moment in time.
Yep.
It could have been some intern that just didn't give a crap and put it up there, used AI, screwed it up.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it is like I say, that like you look at it and you say, if you knew anything about this year, like for instance, let's take this example. Let's say that there had been a movie made about this, like this movie I wrote the screenplay for. We have a screenplay. Let's say there was like the biggest Netflix hit sports movie ever, talking about 1935. Let's say the City of Champions story was incredibly well known. Like everybody knew about it.
Right.
And they put that 32 up on the screen. They would have been like, man, change that up, and the announcer wouldn't even have said anything. He'd be like, oh no, this is 35 we're talking about. This is the greatest year ever. Like we can't screw this one up, it wouldn't even have been a typo. It would have been such an incredible number. But that's not the case. And so like I say, all it does for me is it's just like I say, we listed off numerous examples, and there's probably been 100 more of just nonstop, people that have no idea. It's not just mass media, the fans and all this, but like this, if this is your first show, you're seeing this thing out here, this is just another example of just how forgotten this season truly is. And when I say it's forgotten, and you see like, what's the point of the show? The point of the show is to bring back this incredible story. And also we're going to at some point get into some, other Detroit sports history, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest fish that we're trying to fry right now is this City of Champions story, so
I want to get into the Bobby Lane story. Just in how
we can at some point. Don't put me on the spot for Bobby Lane because I know based on what the general Detroit sports fan. I haven't dived too deep.
We'll look that one up and because Manning and Jeff Daniels did to break the curse or whatever it was, and since then we've been moving forward and playing well. Yeah. So I think it'd be fun to talk.
Well, they
about
also said, the thing is too is they also said the curse was broken when the Lions got Matt Stafford because Stafford went to I think it was the same high school as Bobby Lane.
Oh, okay.
And so it was like the curse was supposedly 50 years. And Stafford coming to the quarterback Lions was, I think it was 50 years. It was like 2007. So it was exactly 50 years. We were on, with the divination, the spirits and all this, the sage burning. They were like, this is the year Stafford's our guy with the quarterback and stuff. And it didn't happen with him. So
15 years.
So whether the curse was actually activated or not, I can't speak to that. And we can dive a little deeper into it when the time comes, but I don't think I've never really subscribed to that. I don't think, and I've never subscribed to the theory that it's the Ford family. I've never subscribed to that either. People are like, oh, it's the Ford family. It's like, well, what did they do wrong?
Somebody posted, it was vertical. Fire Millen.
Yeah.
It was like 2 days ago. He put up Fire Millen.
Oh, did God.
I was like, hey,
I was there for
I was at
the game where they did the orange out where the Detroit fans were dressed in Bengals. The Bengals are my second favorite team. And, I got a bunch of fans that are friends that are Bengals fans. So I embraced the Bengals, my second favorite team. And we were at that game at the bank. It was called the Orange Out, where the Lions fans were all rocking Bengals colors.
Yeah.
And so I went rocking both. I had blue and orange on, and I actually I have this fantastic picture my brother Curtis got for me because there was two pictures. There was a picture of me standing next to a guy standing in a Detroit Lions stormtrooper outfit.
Oh yeah.
And there was a guy dressed in a Bengal orange stormtrooper.
Okay.
So I got my picture taken with both of my brother Curtis spliced them together.
Oh, nice.
Or so they just put them together. They didn't splice it. It was the two pictures in a single frame. And it was awesome. It's a cool, remembrance of that sort of game, but we've come a long way since then. But yeah, this, like say, and for those that, it might say, oh, well, it's, 35 was so long ago, whatever. Think of that was before this whole thing came up. When we did this show, I wanted to talk about the idea that the feelings that we have right now for how much like we love this team, we love this team, that we love them. And so the idea being that if you want to know what it was like in 1935, this is what it was like. Look around. These fans of 1935, they love these players the same way that we, or as much or more potentially as we love our team as these
You're coming off the high of the Tigers just winning the World Series. Now your Lions are going crazy,
and now you're going for the Red Wings,
and the Red Wings are steamrolling their way through their season.
So picture this feeling that we're having, which we know
the Wings are doing okay.
Yes,
like they're 24-17 or something. But, so they're fourth in their.
But that's what I'm saying. Imagine going through basically an entire year of this.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to talk about before this came on.
Yeah, they said the fans on Sunday, there was a Wings game on Sunday, and they said the place was just electric.
Yeah,
I mean, people were so pumped for the Lions having won. Yeah, that the Wings crowd was just insane.
And that was the idea. 35 was that it just went from one team to the next, and you had the joy of like. The Tigers win the World Series. The fans just go insane for the Tigers. Like they were talking about, they were rigging machine guns up in the bell towers to add sound to the noise of the crowd going crazy. It went on until the party in the downtown Detroit and Woodward went on for like 2 a.m.
Oh man!
Right, and then just fast forward, just 7 weeks, into December 7 weeks later. And what do you have? You have the Lions bringing home the championship for the NFL, right? And then on the day of the Lions win their first championship, the Red Wings move into first place, and a whole nother story begins. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I wanted to talk about before this whole thing popped up. That's what I wanted to say was like, this is a great moment to take what we're going through now. Like, really, even if the Lions make the Super Bowl and win it, we got like 3 more weeks of this and then it's over. The Tigers, are just going to start up. They're not going to do anything this year. And so, you have, the Red Wings season is going to be coming to a close. The Pistons obviously aren't doing anything. And so what I'm saying is like, so those that want to, sort of, there's the facts of the City of Champions story. There's the stories that we talk about. But if you want to imagine what it felt like, take what we're going through right now, how happy we are with this Detroit Lions team, and imagine that it stretches triple it for a year, for it last, especially at Joe Louis all year. They were following Joe Louis. Joe Louis was a king in the city at that point. And so you have, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a perfect, that's what I wanted the show to be about before this whole thing popped up. And so, it is, so that's like, so, but still, so now that we've covered that, I want to go back to that original message, which is to take this joy that we have right now, this feeling we're having, and you can actually experience that 1935 season by feeling like saying, I love it. I'm just so happy right now. It's just so fun. And then expanding that outward and imagine that this lasts for a year.
Yeah.
That's what it was like there. So anyways, that's where we're at. So
I'm in. So more to come, more
Absolutely.
City of Champions.
Yes, we got a couple more things too before we wrap up the show. Are we wrapping?
I was going to wrap it.
Okay.
What else do you want to talk about?
Well, I wanted to. There's 2 things.
I'm done. I've had enough. So
too bad.
All right. What else? What else you got? You got a list. Keep going. The boy made a list. What's on your list?
Can we cover both of these?
I don't know. I can't even see it. Just talk about whatever you're going to talk about.
Okay.
Talk about whatever.
Well, I want to.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I want to mention real quick that our very good friend Will Malt in Portsmouth, Ohio, is running for Scioto County Recorder.
Yes.
And so if you are anywhere near Scioto County in Ohio, near Portsmouth, if you were in Scioto County,
he's going to give a recorder concert. He's going to be.
I don't think that's his job. I don't think that's what it is.
He's just like, he's got to go there to the river and like play the recorder.
I'm sure he could. I'm sure he could do a damn good job.
That's different though. Different recorder.
It is a different recorder.
Okay, this is an elected position.
But I don't know if that's a prerequisite for this particular recorder job. Right. But Will is, I would just want to say it like this: Will has my complete and full endorsement.
Yes,
and so we love Will Mall. He's one of our closest friends. He's a brother of ours.
Yes,
and the man is, and we didn't get to see him this year for Christmas, but he has our complete and full endorsement. So anybody that is in the Scioto County area and you're listening to this, we vote for Will Malt. We want him to win.
All right. Break a leg there, Will.
Yes, and we'll mention it again in the future here. We'll update everybody how Will's doing.
Yeah.
And so and we also, you want to do our show and tell now, or you want to wait till the next episode? What Chris got me.
Yeah, get your show and tell, get your toys.
All right, hold on a second.
Yeah, so there's some very, very cool not toys. They're statues. They are they're very, very cool. Watch the all right.
Like, go get your box of toys.
Get your box of toys.
It is a box of toys. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Chris, of course, our like one of our favorite people in the world.
Yeah.
Chris came up with a new hobby of making these things, and he sent me a box of these incredible City of Champions figurines. So let's start at the beginning here. Here's Joe. We got Joe Lewis.
Nice.
Chris makes these things, a 3D printer.
Okay.
Here's Joe, right?
Yeah, that's groovy.
Here's Joe. Here's my favorite Tiger of all time.
Mickey Cochran.
Mickey Cochran. We love Mickey. There's Mickey. Who we got here? We don't have if this was anybody else, we'd have Dutch Clark.
Yeah.
But that's not what we got.
No.
Glenn Presnell.
Yeah.
Look at that. My favorite lion. So we got Glenn Presnell.
Yeah.
Figurines. This is the back of it. It's made of. I forgot what it's made. It's like a plastic, but he does like a 3D printing. He's got the bezel stand. The thing is awesome.
Yeah.
And then look what else we got.
Abby
Goodfellow.
There you go. We were just talking about
Yes, he's my favorite. Remember, Abby Goodfellow is my favorite.
Yep.
So he's my favorite Red Wing of all time. But there's a caveat for that is that Bucco is my favorite 1935 Red Wing.
Oh, okay.
So Bucco's my favorite 1935 Red Wing, but Abby is my favorite of all time. So Chris asked me that question. He said, "Who's your favorite Red Wing?" And I said, I was like, "That you can't put me on the spot like that because that's a tough question." I said, "Abby's my favorite of all time, and Bucco's my favorite 35." So he went with Abby, which is cool. And so here's the final guy I got.
Oh yeah,
look at this,
holding up the two bears.
Garwood
with the
Teddy and Bruin with the Miss America 10 down below. Right, he's like looks like he's kind of riding in it. Look at him. He's got the steering wheel in it. It's got the bezel stand. The thing is awesome. Look at these guys. These are one of a kind, Jamie. 1 out of 1 for each of these.
Yeah.
The only thing Chris should have signed the bottom or put 1 out of 1 out. That's the only thing we're missing.
Yeah.
But I love them and I really appreciate it, Chris. These things are awesome. And there's a little birdie telling me that there's another potential figurine coming, but I don't want to go into any more detail than that because we'll just present it on the next show for our next episode of Show and Tell.
Scooch those closer to you and turn them towards the camera.
You can
put them on the edge all the way towards you.
Oh, I got you. So you can see them all. I should have taken a giant picture to post on the thing, but maybe we'll do it for the next show. But yeah, these are awesome. And I think we'll find room for these here at the studio, won't we?
Sure.
Cool. Yeah, look at these. These things are awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, City of Champions figurines.
That's it.
And Chris loves making these things. So if there's any special requests,
sure,
put it in this show. Why my head's cut off? Did I go too far?
Because we can show the.
Oh, you cut. So the figurines are my face is cut off. I gotta duck down a little.
People know what you look like.
Hey, everybody. So, anyways, yeah. So Chris makes these. Yeah. So if you've got your own, I don't want to put him on the spot and say that like he's gonna make figures for everybody. I don't think he's gonna do that.
But open up an SD shop.
But if there's something anybody's looking for something, I might be able to sweet talk Chris into making some more, because he said the thing that's cool about these is I think that if there's like modern players or whatever, that you could get these things signed.
Oh yeah,
there you could get them signed, and like it's like this plastic with like a silver or gold Sharpie.
Yeah,
I think those things would be awesome. You get them signed. And so anyways, yeah, it's if anybody's looking to get these things, Chris makes these. So
it's very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Those were the things on your list.
That was it.
All right. Chris, thank you for those. Those are awesome. And
yeah,
everybody, thanks for listening. Appreciate it. And like, subscribe, leave a comment, all the podcast things in all the podcast places. Do it. And we'll be back with more.
Well, yeah, we will.
All right,
Heck yeah, we will. We're re-energized. We're going to be doing all kinds of stuff.
All right.
Have a great night, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Detroit City of Champions.